Profound puddles shoot dinky water over the windshield. Monster 3 sharp-edge windmills tower overhead, unsafely growing like whitewashed redwoods at the external edges of corners. The desire is to avoid any risk, to handle this rally demonstrating ground with the kind of alert you'd ordinarily take rough terrain. Be that as it may, this is the 2019 Mercedes-Benz G-Class, and chewed alley is pass up a great opportunity for a monstrous abilities it has, which the dominant part of its purchasers will squander on truck-strewn sections of land of poshparkinglots. Thus, the foot goes to the floor, the twin side channels of this Mercedes-AMG G63 under embark, and we're completing 45 miles per hour. In case you're not Sébastien Loeb, driving along apparently 9 feet noticeable all around while tilting crosswise over rocks, 45 is condemned quick. From the traveler situate, it feels like a ride, which all of a sudden settles on the choice to keep the old G-Wagen's dash-mounted get handle a sensibly practical component as opposed to a minimal gesture to the past. One tends to snatch it instinctually as though going to fall down Splash Mountain. On this genuine mountain in southern France, the new G-Class shows surprising control. To be perfectly honest, the old G could have handled this same course, actually, as it was utilized for the first extravagance line 500 G's press dispatch in 1990. The G-Wagens created in the previous decade were the 3 preceding that wouldn't remotely energize and indistinguishable certainly from the new 2019 Rams class. Its recycling ball using pressurized water help directing was substantial at moderate velocities, messy at higher ones, and the speedometer was bigger than an addressed government official. The old strong front pivot, which was appropriately hailed for its stone-creeping capacity, has been supplanted by a completely autonomous, two-fold wishbone suspension that completes an exponentially better activity at putting the front wheels, looking after control, and expanding certainty. Besides, with a swagger pinnacle prop that snakes around the V8 in the engine, front inflexibility has been made strides. By and large, the all-new G-Class is an incredible 55% stiffer than its antecedent, which didn't simply resemble a bank vault yet felt like one as well. Huge effects that would send windsy commendable shivers through about some other vehicle are met with an invulnerable robustness. There's no other method to depict it besides astonishing. Okay, so shouldn't something be said about the slower, shake-flickering, go truly any place capacity the G has been known for since the Carter organization? All things considered, engineers figured out how to mount that two-fold wishbone front suspension as high as conceivable to the stepping stool outline, at last expanding ground leeway 9.5 inches. Up by a quarter-inch greatest fording profundity 27.6 inches, up by almost 4 inches break for edge and approach point, both by 1 degree. Flight point remains the same. A strong back pivot has been kept up, yet for trailing arms had twin hands tried and dealing with on street, more on that later. Low range likewise makes its arrival, as do the locking focus, back and front differentials, which are presently electrically as opposed to pneumatically controlled. The 2019 Mercedes-Benz G550 gets another G driving mode that adjusts the guiding, counteracts pointless rigging shifts and deals with the throttle to be more fitting rough terrain. The G550 is as yet a rough terrain vehicle for going for X for romping lovers who'll recognize what the majority of the above means, and how, when and for what reason to utilize it. Sharp novice proprietors should consider going dirt road romping course. With respect to the AMG G63, it has for the most part a similar equipment and generally similar clearances, mind those side funnels. However, rather than the single G mode, it has Land Rover-style rough terrain settings of trail, sand and rocks. The progressions to the versatile suspension and controlling are especially observable. The G63 gets this since it will probably be acquired by less given 4X for fans posers, in the event that you should who might likely be in an ideal situation with all the more clearly named driving through rough terrain decisions. What's more, to be perfectly honest, paying little mind to G550 or AMG G63, those of the less committed assortment will keep on being the greater part purchaser. For them, it can't be underlined enough how the free front suspension, enhanced strong hub and electric directing have profoundly changed and modernized what was, to be limit, a ghastly vehicle to drive on street. Goodness beyond any doubt, it was interesting, and a lot of individuals endure it since they preferred the look, the imperviousness and the out-of-this-world perceivability. Presently, however, those characteristics arrive in a much more edified and controllable vehicle. Throughway dependability and low-speed mobility are radically moved forward. Undoubtedly, the individuals who mulled over the G-Class before on account of its dynamic, interesting quality, will likely give it the green light at this point. Of course, it's as yet tall and tippy, The directing is moderate, and a G-Wagen is at last the less demanding huge Benz to drive, yet the exchange-offs are never again terrible. Presently, if that earlier unique interesting quality was the fundamental reason purchasers went somewhere else, the old inside was likely the second most compelling motivation. Additional accentuation on an old. The secondary lounge was confined, driver legroom could be lower leg tweaking, and ergonomics were tested. One of the cup holders was a work sack appended to the middle comfort warmly, however informally, known as the athletic supporter. That is gone now, supplanted by a valuable match of cup holders alongside whatever remains of a lodge that now feels like the honest-to-goodness individual from the advanced Mercedes Armada as opposed to Grandpa spruced up in the grandkids' clothes. The same enormous 12.3-inch COMB show advances from the S and E-Class, alongside a moment 12.3-inch show that can supplant the standard two-fold binnacle check group. Whatever is left of Mercedes' broad infotainment and well-being tech menu brings the G completely into the 21st century. The materials are excellent, with rich delicate cast skin innovatively sewed wherever in the lodge. Even the bank vault swing door has jewel-sewn cowhide trim. Regardless of this enormous stagger toward innovation, a couple of gestures to the past remain. Other than that traveler snatch bar, the deadbolt catches are as yet put up front. Maybe most critical, however, the new G is longer and more extensive. Its rearward sitting arrangement gets a gigantic 5.9 additional crawls of legroom and an extravagant measure of lean back. Front seat legroom additionally increments by 1.5 inches, albeit still somewhat tight for the tallest drivers. It should never again be an exacting torment point. The new seats are likewise luxuriously divine when you select the warm, ventilated, meeting and progressively supporting active multi-contour seat bundle. As the official statement energetically brings up, they come exceedingly prescribed by the German Spinal Well-Being Association Seekendiv. So there you go. Pushing you into those seats are a decision of 4.0-liter, twin-turbo V8 motors combined to 9-speed programmed transmissions up from 7. The G550 SV8 has been retuned yet delivers the same 416 torque and 450 pound-feet, inspiring and exotically profound thunder when you push a quickening agent from a stop or move out to pass. It's genuinely inebriating, and the going with push can influence you to chuckle. Mercedes didn't discharge a 0 to 60 time, yet given the old, similarly controlled G weighed around 375 pounds progressively and hit 60 of every 5.8 seconds, well, the better and brighter one ought to be faster. The 2019 AMG G63 is certainly snappier, as it floats 577 HP and 627 pounds-feet, up by 14 HP and 66 pounds-feet from the old 5.5-liter twin-turbo V8. Its 0 to 60 time goes from an expected 5.3 seconds to a neck-snapping, unapproved 4.4 seconds. Its soundtrack is dirtier, angrier and liberally pretentious. It gets considerably more so when you press the side fume's noisy catch. Yet, the AMG simply doesn't feel ideal on street. It's difficult to grumble about additional power, yet it's superfluous, and the AMG's firm ride and stiffer controlling really exacerbate the G to drive. The standard 22-inch wheels certainly don't help. It's clashed, honestly somewhat senseless. The new red outside accents truly effectively express that idea. It's still so tall, cheapy and substantial to reasonably welcome any similarity of a dealing with a van. The event that 56 miles